Hello, everyone. We are live. We are here with the folks from Denell Cake. Maybe everybody can say hi. We'll start here with Denzel, and then we can move on to Toby. And
Hi everybody, I'm Denzel from Denell Cake. Founded the company a while ago, back in 2017, and I am the director for
awesome. And yeah, we can go through here. I want to be a little bit more. I don't want you guys to have to feel like you're giving your whole life thing. Let me tell you everything you do and what have you. So let me do a little bit of the intro. Toby, you're doing combat design, the audio engineering, and music. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and you've done a decent amount of music. Have both of you and Denzel, or am I? Because I looked at some of the background of some of your other games and what have you, and you've done like some hip hop. Was that with Denzel or in the first game?
Yeah, so Denzel does a lot of like hip hop and stuff on the side. I more of like do like game composition and stuff. So yeah, anything you heard from like Wonder Spectrum or this recent game is by me.
Okay, awesome, cool. And then for art and everything else like that, is that who's handling that? Who's doing? I would like to know who is doing like just the cover art for the game and designing the characters.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And real quick, I want to give a shout out to Reggie One with Earth. He actually produced like just about every single song in the Obsolete Souls RPG. He made well over like 70 tracks for
Oh
that
wow.
project.
Okay.
Yeah, he went in. He was not messing around.
Okay.
So shout out to him. As for the character art and the illustrations, that is from our boy Ricardo. He couldn't pop in here.
Sure.
But he is super, super talented. And then as for character concepts and designs, that has come from me and my mom.
Oh, that's awesome. Mom's helping out. Oh man,
Heck
that's
yeah.
that's why the game's going to be
Shout
so
out to
good.
Mama Denzel.
You got the mom power. Awesome. And then Tori, can you tell me a little bit? So you've got a couple of things down here. So level design, which I think a lot of people will know kind of roughly what that is. But then it says VFX and then UI engineer. And I think for most people, they're going to be like, what is that? So can you tell us a little bit about, what you actually do?
Sure, yeah. The VFX is like, it's similar to level design. When I'm saying VFX, I'm saying like, I'm adding all the particles or any other like processing, shaders, all that stuff to the level to just make it pop more.
Okay.
How to make people play it. And then I'm kind of surprised that UI engineer was in there. I did some like engineering for the UI in the game. I think I set up like the health sliders, all that stuff.
And just an FYI, I think audio is a little bit low on you. I don't know. It was fine a second ago, but I don't know if anything got bumped. Maybe you could just double check for us so we want to be able to hear you. Well, cool. Well, the game is, so you guys have done Obsolete Souls. You've done the first game, and you're working on episode 0. Can you tell me just like, I know it's a beat 'em up, but can you just tell me a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so we wanted to make a prequel to the RPG. Hopefully, if things go really, really well, this will lead us into making a sequel to the RPG. But I really feel like the RPG had a little too much in the way of narrative to just like get the point across for what the setup for the story is and where we want to go with it. So the prequel gives us a chance to not only dive into a genre that we've been very interested in for a long time, but now we have an opportunity to make a more direct setup for that narrative to roll into future titles.
Cool. And all this is like well and good. I would really love to know like what got you guys. Maybe Toby, you can start off. And what got you into game? Like why are you here? Why are you making games? What led you to being a game designer and wanting to do this?
Um, the simplest answer, honestly, is just one day playing a video game. And like years ago, my mom was just like, "Hey, Toby, you should be making your own games. Like, you're just sitting here all day just doing nothing." I'm like, "You can't make video games. Like, that's like a lot of money." And then one day I see an ad for Unity, and I'm like, "Oh shoot, you can just download this. This is cool."
Okay.
Um, and then just like playing a lot of my favorite games from Sonic to Kingdom Hearts when I was a kid, I was like really loved both the storytelling and the characters that come with said game as well. And I think specifically with Kingdom Hearts and Sonic 3, they did such a great job with like conveying story-driven mechanics that interest me the most to get into game development.
Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean by
And
that? Can you say more about like story-driven mechanics?
you don't open Pandora's box, but I will. I think a good example is like, let's say Kingdom Hearts 2. Spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora versus Roxas. Like story-wise, Roxas is trapped in Sora and stuff, and wants to live his own life. Mechanically, you're like fighting him, and he's one of the harder end bosses in the game, and stuff like that. And everything from how the music was composed to how the stage was designed for fighting and stuff. It's very Kingdom Hearts 2 is very arena based, and it's purposely very like referencing the first game in terms of how it was made. With like where you're fighting him and stuff, and a lot of that goes into um like basically Sora and his internal struggles with Roxas and stuff. Um, and then yeah, again, I'm trying to like be as condensed as possible without going way too into it. But yeah, I always love the idea of telling stories through mechanics and stuff. A lot of like indie games like Undertale do it and stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I was just earlier today. I was playing. I play tabletop RPGs quite a bit, and we were playing. We're talking about the system and stuff like that. And when you're looking at rules, and you're like, "Is this a good rule?" One of the major things for that situation is like, I have this fantasy in my mind for what this character can do, right? If you're playing Goku, you want to be able to shoot a beam of energy out, right? You want to be able to fly up in the air, you have this idea of like, and it's like, do the rules, does the game let me live that fantasy of, I'm this person, and in the lore, that person can do, these various things. So along those
Yeah.
lines. Cool. Well, Tori, maybe you can, what got you into game design?
Kind of similar to Toby, but different games. I played video games like my whole childhood. Uh, Watched my brothers play like Guitar Hero and all that. Mostly, Skyrim got me into making games because I like learned about mods, and I was like, oh, people could just like do this. That's crazy. And found out that you can major in it. So that was kind of like my whole life was just going towards getting a degree in making video games.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question here in chat from Lyriel, and maybe Denzel, you can answer this one for us. And also, lead into your telling us what got you into this. But Lyriel's asking if she didn't realize that this was like a perpetual storyline that we're following from the kind of the first game into the second. Can you kind of tell us about that a little bit? And I think she's asking if like, are you going to take this further? But I think that maybe might be a question. We'll get to that question next.
Okay. Um, so I guess I'll start with the introduction for how I got into games, which it's weird. I feel like I give a different answer every time. But Sonic Adventure
Sure.
2, man, oh my goodness, that game changed my life. I was so young. It was so good. I was like, dang. I think what was crazy for me was playing the Sega Genesis and then jumping because I missed the Sega Saturn for like a really long time. I would see N64 games and I'm like, oh, this looks cool. Um, but Sonic Adventure, man, when you're used to seeing little pixel Sonic and then you see like Sonic running around a whole world doing tricks on a snowboard and all this other stuff, I was like, I did not know video games could be this crazy. So I was all in, loved checking out different types of games, fighting games. I'm super into those. Beat 'em ups, obviously. But I think when I really started to be like, I kind of want to be a part of this. I want to make some. Um, Dynasty Warriors 6, oddly enough, which
Oh, I don't know that one. Okay.
yeah, it's like a hack and slash, and you're going through like all this Chinese lore, and you are just unstoppable. You mow down like hundreds of people with like nunchucks. It's sick. Um, but yeah, I was like, how do people do this? This is like really crazy. So I Googled it. I saw a couple game engines. Um, I'm really into Final Fantasy VIII. That was my favorite RPG.
Okay.
So I was
Can
like,
I just
which
ask,
of
have
these
you
engines do
guys
I use to
ever?
get one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Have you guys ever played Battletoads?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
suck at it.
Extremely hard, but so much fun.
I just had to ask. I just was curious. Okay. Um, well, if you guys, or do you plan on maybe continuing this storyline? I mean, I know things change. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring. But you're kind of telling a continuing story. Is this something that you want to stick to? Because you're talking about like one of your favorite games was the sixth in a series. Is this kind of something for you that has legs? I mean, obviously, maybe you get tired of something, you want to do something different, but
Right. So I guess it's kind of a spoiler, but not really.
okay,
But the end of the Obsolete Souls RPG um ends with part 1 of 3 complete. So if Funnel
okay.
Cake is successful enough and we could keep going, Obsolete Souls is intended to be a trilogy. Will we ever get there? I hope so, but
Okay.
we'll see.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I think Larry was worried about spoiler territory, but that's cool. And if people want to go play the first game, which is an RPG, it's free on Steam right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. That's really cool. How does it feel having like has everybody been part of something that has been published and is out there yet, or did I know some of you guys joined at different times?
I mean, Obsolete Souls was the first game I ever worked on that was published. I don't know about Toby and Tori.
Aside from like games I would publish on Itch or Game Jolt, if anyone remembers the Sora and all that stuff back in the old days. Not this like this will like episode 0 will be my first Steam release, but otherwise it's always just been side projects I've released on the internet.
Okay. What about you, Tori?
Yeah,
Have you?
same here. I think I almost released one of my like school projects on Steam, but decided not to drop the $100 on it. Um, but no, this will be the first Steam and Xbox release for
Okay.
me. So.
That's really cool. I know with, making YouTube videos, like the first video I made, it's like, I have created fire. Like it may not be that good, but I'm still excited. uh, well, that's really cool. Tori, when we're talking about level design, um, can you tell me like some of the things that you like think about and that goes into that sort of thing?
Sure. Well, for this game, the level design's gonna be like a little different than like your typical level design. What they teach you in school is you start with a paper map and you figure out where enemies are gonna go, and then you gray box, and then you actually lay out the level. I don't really like to do that. I'm a disorganized person, so I kind of just I get a whole asset pack from Denzel because he has commissioned the art from our artist like a while ago, I think, right?
Mhm.
And I basically pull in all those assets. I get kind of a few reference images, and then I take that and I kind of just say, "Oh, I don't like how that looks," and do my own thing. And then I show Denzel what I did, and he's like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And then, yeah,
That's
that's kind
awesome.
of my process. I also like to go in and edit assets if they aren't exactly the right height or I want them to look a little different. I'll add in new art assets to like fill up the level more.
Okay.
So
When I was looking at the trailer, some of the stuff that you guys have seen at PAX and you guys also sent over, at one point you were following behind a bus and things are getting thrown off. I think maybe surfboards, and you're having to like kick them, you're having to shoot them into the back of the bus. Where did that come from? Whose idea is that? because I saw that and I was like, this reminds me a bit that it's the same vague ideas like Battletoads, right? There are parts where like, oh, you're playing one game and now all of a sudden it feels like you're playing kind of a different game inside of the game.
That was
Yeah.
Denzel's idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like so it's interesting. So as ideas go in game dev, right? Like you start off with a concept and then as it's being developed, it goes through iterations and then it becomes what it becomes. Um,
Sure.
the surfboards and all the other items, I think that actually came from Toby. I was like, "Oh, maybe we could have them throw like bottles and cans and stuff." And he's like, "What if they just throw like a surfboard and a whole ass bicycle?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah, and I'm getting another question here. Yes, the game playing in the background here is the current game that they are working on. This is some footage that I think they grabbed from their demo version that they had at PAX East. The or I'm sorry, TTRPG, the RPG game, rather, the first Obsolete Souls, which is actually, so this is Obsolete Souls Episode 0, Operation Haiti, which is the game that you're working on right now, is actually a prequel, correct? Am I understanding that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So what you're seeing, though, in the background, though, just so everybody's clear, is the new game. If they wanted to go play and check out the RPG, how does it play? Because it's a different style of game, right? Like this is a very common thing to do, kind of
Yeah.
like the there's plenty of games that do this. Most recently, actually, Helldivers, right? Their first game was a totally different style of game, but set in the same universe.
Yeah.
What would we compare the first game to? I guess episode 1.
Yeah, so a common comparison has been like Final Fantasy 2, 3, like those older games, and Pokemon is what a lot of people say it reminds them of.
Okay. Cool. So you're walking around an open world map. Is there a little bit of like you run
Yep.
into some combat?
Yep, you
Turn.
got the random encounters in there, or encounter zones is what they're called in there.
Okay.
Top-down turn-based RPG.
Cool. And then this is a beat 'em up. Now I'm familiar with what is a beat 'em up. Well, and maybe can you tell us some games that are beat 'em ups that we might know?
Yeah, so it's interesting because for a while we were bouncing back and forth between if we even want to call it a beat 'em up game or 2D action.
Okay.
Beat 'em ups are typically 2D action, single player or co-op. I feel like co-op is what really popularized them back in the day, so it's a staple. A lot of them still like to include. It's you versus multiple mobs of enemies or waves. Um, I don't remember the rest of your question. I think that was the second part
Oh,
of
I was
mine
just
there, sorry.
honestly just trying to explain to people what are a beat 'em up. And so
Oh,
when I
games
think
that are
of
similar.
yeah, I think of like Ninja Turtles back in the day where you could play
Yeah.
at the arcade. I think of X-Men was really that same thing, right? Where you can move up and down on this, vaguely three-dimensional, really kind of obviously the graphics and everything are mostly 2D, but you can kind of move a little bit up. It's the first kind of 3D version in a lot of arcade games, and then left, right,
Yeah.
and what have you. And you're trying to
Yeah.
punch a guy, and he's like a step away from the screen for you. He's like a step into the screen. And you can't hit him, and you're swinging around, and nothing's happening. Cool.
One thing that I guess I'll throw out, and if you want us to elaborate, I'll swing that over to Toby since he's our combat designer.
Okay.
One thing that we've been hearing at a lot of the events this year is that it feels really good, and they're not running into that so often. I think at PAX, since that was our first like really big show, there were a couple instances where that would happen, where it's like I'm trying to attack this guy, but he's a couple steps up. Now I got to kind of move around.
Okay.
But Toby worked in some awesome targeting, so if you are that close, you can still land those attacks and get into your groove.
Okay. I actually think we're seeing that happen right behind us right now. Can I, Toby, I want to hear more about it. Can I just tell you guys a quick story? Because you mentioned PAX and we're talking about beat 'em ups. I came by and I chatted with you guys for a little bit, and these are big conventions, and I kept coming back. I never saw you guys again, and I got home and I was like, there was that game, and I was like, it's a beat 'em up. I can't remember what it's called. I remember there was like some Haitian developers. So of course I do what anybody does. I go to Google. So I'm like Haitian beat 'em up. And I'm like, this is probably not something a white guy should be Googling right now. I couldn't find you guys. And then I tried for a while. I was Googling all kinds of stuff and just silly stuff. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I can't remember the name of this game. And anyways, months go by, and of course, recently I see someone on Twitter asking, apropos of nothing, about Haitian video game developers, and I was like, I know some. If I can just, so I went back to Googling the second time. I don't know what I Googled the first time, but the second time it was Haitian beat 'em up, and I found you guys, and I was like, okay, great. So
We out here, baby.
so speaking of beat 'em up, speaking of the combat, yeah, Toby, tell us more about it, man.
Yeah, so essentially, back when Denzel initially came to me and stuff, and we were kind of going back and forth between, like, if he had an engineer and stuff like that. One day I was like, I can do the engineering and stuff, kind of save you some money.
What does that mean? Can you tell us what that means? Do the engineering. That doesn't.
Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
Save
at
some
Dental
money
Cake,
for
we
them.
like programming, like doing gameplay programming.
Okay.
We say engineering for some reason a lot. It just stuck with me.
Sure.
But essentially, that is designing a lot of how the game functions and how the players interact with everything, from stuff like UI to controls, enemy AI, and stuff like that. I'm in charge of all of that. With UI,
Can you give
UI
me?
engineering being helped with Tori and Denzel, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give me like just one like really micro example of what? Because you just told me all that, and I'm like, okay, give me like one micro example, one small example of like something you've had to do.
Let's say punching an enemy, having to punch an enemy, I would have to create a object that essentially reads like, hey, like, what character is this? How much damage is the character going to enact on this enemy? And how the enemy will react in terms of both animation as well as like other aspects, like, will
And
this kill him or will this not kill him?
when you say object, so when you say you create an object, so you're talking about like I punch, and that punch is the object. You're talking about object-oriented programming, I assume.
Yeah, let's like the player itself, the person that you are controlling is like the object that is interacting with the enemy
Okay.
and stuff. Yeah.
Cool. So you're doing the coding part of that as much as is needed and what have you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And what engine is this being made in for the game nerds out there?
Unity.
You're me. Okay. Cool. I don't know. Did you have more to say before I interrupted you? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I no, it's all good.
Okay. Can I jump over to Tori? Can you kind of give me the same kind of example? Like, can you just tell me? Because again, like, there's just so much to all this stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, I do this, and it's like, well, I don't. Do I even understand what that? Can you give me just like a small example of like a core thing that you do, like one really small thing? I know you said level design, and we kind of talked about it a little bit. And you're saying, hey, I pull in, objects and everything else. You even mentioned gray boxing, which for those who don't know, that means that like, hey, it's kind of a placeholder, and they're literally a gray, vaguely gray box that's moving around.
Yep.
Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I guess a simple thing that I do a lot, not so simple, is messing with the lighting is like a big chunk of my time. There's like a bunch of lights that I've got in the level itself, and they're essentially just they're lights. They're 2D. You could change the color. You can make them brighter. You can make them less bright. You can kind of control which direction they're hitting, and if they're not going to hit this direction. There's all sorts of little like gizmos and stuff to it. A lot of the times I'm just editing the color slightly and it can make like a huge difference on just the overall vibe of the level. I could spend hours editing like 3 different lights, and then if I go in and I change some other setting somewhere, I'm like, now those lights look terrible. I have to change that again. So yeah, like that's a simple thing that I'm always doing.
Okay. And then yeah, maybe Denzel, can you explain to us what do you do? What is a core part of some of what you do? I know that
like I
this
do
is a small
lot.
company, so you guys probably do a
Really
lot.
boring. So I guess I'll give an example on the animation front. Um, so essentially, I will draw um, a bunch of different pieces, which are usually limbs for a character, torso, arms, legs, head, and then any extra accessories that are needed. I'll put those in a separate sheet, and as I'm animating a character, I'll draw out maybe the first frame. It depends on how complex the animation is. But after I draw the starting frame, I'll usually draw an end frame and see where I want that to go. And then I can kind of pick and pull those pieces that I drew earlier and start to put those together. After the animation's made, I'll export it into a sheet and I'll send it over to Toby. He'll put the animation together in game. We go back and forth making sure it looks good, and then it's on to the next enemy, character, explosion, whatever needs to be animated.
Okay, awesome, cool. So I appreciate you gave me a bit of a workflow here. So you're drawing, doing a lot of illustration, sending it over to Toby, and then eventually those things are getting dropped into a level that Tori has designed. Is that, am I getting
Yep.
that more or less right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, talking about the story, can you tell us? Obviously, you don't want to give any spoilers or anything like that, but can you just tell us about a little bit about the story that we'll experience? And if you want to, draw on the first game, which is the episode 1 or whatever you want to do, but can you just tell us a bit about it? I know that we have a princess.
Yeah.
That's the main thing I know is we got a princess. Is that right?
Yes.
That is right, right?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. So the big thing with this game is we want to kind of lay the foundation that I think I failed to do a great job at with the RPG. So in this story, you're going to be traveling with the queen of the kingdom of Treblam. There's 6 kingdoms in the Obsolete Souls world. Um, and you guys are going to be searching for her missing daughter on the island of Haiti. It's spelled different in Obsolete Souls. It's Haytii. But come on, you already know the message. So you're going to be running through there, searching for her daughter. And as you're on that search, you're going to see bits and pieces from the RPG slowly start to build up and come together to lay the foundation for that. But I think the heavier focus is also making sure this paves the way for Obsolete Souls 2, if we get there, of course, as I was
Okay.
saying earlier.
Cool.
So yeah, that's where that's going. Story for the Obsolete Souls RPG. There is an Obsolete Souls wiki. If you guys maybe don't have time to play through like a 20-hour game, then you can read it.
Okay, you can go check it out there. That's cool. And you mentioned your mom being involved. Can you tell me more about that? I want to hear about mom. Where's mom? Get mom on the call.
Yeah, I wish. She's in Massachusetts, man. I'm over
Okay.
here in Carolina. But yeah, so my mom is not into video games.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But she likes when I get ambitious and passionate about things. So when it came to working on this game, and when she started to hear that it was going to be like leaning very heavy into Haitian influence, she just wanted to know more about it. And I was like, hey, I want to come up with a new character for this game. We have hints in the last one that are kind of leading up to like, oh, there's a mysterious character. We don't know who it is. Um, I think I want to use this to kind of tell people who this might be. Um, so we started with that, and she was kind of sort of into it. Um, and she's like, okay, is this going to be the main character? I was like, no. Um, the main character is going to be this character called Eartha. Um, and she was like, oh, okay, cool, cool. And I showed her a super early concept, and she didn't really like it, but she was kind of just like, okay. And I'm like, that's not good. I want you to be like, oh, that's great. Um, so she's like, well, I just can't tell that this character is Haitian. They just look black. I'm like, All right, fair enough.
Fair, yeah.
Um, so when we were working on Earth's design, I was like, okay, colors of the Haitian flag, red and blue. Let's have some white in there. Maybe a little bit of gold, maybe a little bit of green. I don't know. I wish there was a way I could like.
And
I don't know if
she's
there's a
on the
picture of
background.
Earth
She's on
like
the
in the
screen right
media
now.
kit. Oh, okay, sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, my mom saw that and she's like, I still can't tell that this character is Haitian. Now she just looks Black American. I'm like, dang nabbit, I don't know what to do. And she's like, she needs to look like she's wearing the flag. I'm like, yeah, like those are the colors. But
Okay.
then she was like, no, she needs to look like she's got the flag. Like it needs to be very obvious. And I'm like, oh, maybe we could make a design with the flag like more incorporated into it. So it's kind of flexed into her shirt there. And then we have the gold rings around her wrists and her ankles to represent the gold that's in there, and we have like the green tree inside of the white space on the shirt piece too, and then obviously the red and blue. So after going with that design, my mom came up with some more ideas for floral patterns. There's a lot of Haitian dresses that kind of have the same thing going around like the outer trim of their clothing. So we added that in there too. And then yeah, we kind of just put it to the eye test with some other family members, and they're like, "Yes, this
Okay.
is a Haitian character. I love it."
Cool. Awesome. And you mentioned, or I mentioned to you guys when we were chatting a little bit, Compa, which I did not know anything about. Um, can you tell us? Someone tell. I'm a white guy who doesn't know anything about Compa. Somebody help me out.
So compa music is essentially like it's Haitian like Haitian music essentially. Like there's many different parts or like different types of compa music. It's not just compa as a whole. There's
Okay.
some more like jazz or like soft compa and stuff like that for love songs. But
And it's
for our game, we kind of use more like party or like composonk inspired music, which is if like some artists to look up as a white guy who
yeah,
wants to
yeah.
get into compa more. T Vice is a huge one. T Wiki, I think T Wiki's one of them as well. Um, those two are
Hold
like
on just a second.
huge.
Hold on just a second.
Yeah, I gotta
Is
open
our
my
audio
Spotify
is
up.
our I think is our audio cutting out there, guys?
Uh-oh.
So the video cut out for a second. I don't know why. Sorry. Tell me again. Who do we need to look up for Compa? It's Kompa, right?
Yeah,
Compa. All right.
compa, compa.
Yes,
Compa. Okay.
compa.
All right.
Yeah, T Vice. I think T Vice is a perfect introduction and stuff like that. I can
Okay.
put some songs in the Discord if you guys want. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that'd be great. I was listening to some earlier in the week because I was like, oh, they're
yeah,
using the Compa music. I don't know what that is. Let me just Google this. So okay, cool.
it's a very beautiful genre of music, and for this game, we want to try to put as much faithfulness into compa music while also trying to do our own thing as well. Because at the end of the day, we're Haitian Americans. We want to like try to mix elements from different games and like mix that with Haitian culture, showing that like, hey, Haitian culture is not only beautiful on its own, but like you can also like do a lot of experimental cool shit with it. Basically, I'm sorry if I swore. I don't know if like this
Oh,
is
you're
swear
fine.
free
No, I
zone,
I
but,
swear. I try to
um,
keep it like to a minimum, but
yeah,
everybody who knows me knows that I'll. No, you're good. You're good. You're totally fine. Well, yeah.
yeah.
Can we talk more about like the like what about the game? You talked about the characters. What about the game itself? Or is there any Haitian influences like in the game itself besides just the general theming?
So, that sounds really excited.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yes.
so outside of just the setting, I think the biggest thing for me was we wanted to like try to put the elements of Haiti and what like Haiti stands for into the gameplay, cycling all the way back to how like mechanics drive through storytelling and stuff. If like a
What
little
does
bit of
that
a history
mean? What is?
lesson.
Oh yeah, give us a
Oh,
history lesson first.
I'll start. I'm sorry for for like for a little bit of history lesson. Haiti is one of the first free Black republics. Like we essentially were enslaved by like France and stuff, and we like long story short, we won the battle, and we were the first free Black republic. And I think for this game, the reason why our combat is the way it is, very fast, very fluid, like you can kind of mix different moves into each other, is because we want to convey that idea of freedom with what you do. In most beat 'em ups, it's very like slow. You kind of have to go a certain way. You can only go right. You can't go left on a lot of games. And during development, me and Denzo were like, "Yo, what if you could go back left? What if like you can just launch someone out into the air after punching them? What if you could combo like an MVC2 game? You know, like kind of give players that freedom the same way Haiti itself is free as like a country, you know?
Cool.
Um,
And that
I
that
hope that
like
explains what I've been saying with like storytelling through gameplay. But yeah,
yeah. And I mean that also that you feel like a powerful character, right? You feel like
yes,
it's that player agency where you feel like you're in charge. The game's not happening to you; you're happening to the game, kind
yeah.
of thing. Cool. That's awesome. And you guys also, I actually tried to kind of set up like a charity stream for today, but Google wasn't cooperating. But I will link Hope for Haiti, which is something where you guys are have mentioned on your website, and part of the proceeds of the game are going to go for Hope for Haiti. Do you mind, if you don't, if you feel comfortable, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I'm not sure how far I can dive into it because we're still in. I don't want to say the conversations are complex, but we want to make sure we do this the right way. So there's a lot of things we're still discussing with them.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe
but
maybe
we
you could just tell me
really,
what they do.
really,
Yeah, even if you don't tell me, I know you're trying to figure out how you're working with them. Maybe you could just tell me what they do and why are you interested in that? Why do you care? I mean, obvious
yeah, I
reasons, but
mean, right. Like, I mean, you'd think it'd be fairly obvious, but they're a Haitian charity and they're really trying to make things better over there. Especially with the state that Haiti's in now, things are really, really bad. They're struggling a lot. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Um, but what I would really, really like to do, um, I want to find a way to get them more hardware so that way they could get into the same type of stuff that we do, except over there, right? Like having those resources is huge, not even just for like, oh, I want them all to be like nerds like me and make video games and then it'll build this
I
empire.
I
I mean,
do.
that would be
I want
awesome.
everybody to be nerds
Right. That
and
would be
everybody to make
awesome.
video games.
And I hope I can inspire that. Um, but I mean, just for education purposes in general, right? Um, but even then, like chatting with them, they're still trying to figure out, like, okay, if we work with Dental Cake and we get this money from them, how are we actually going to spread this? Like we're just trying to make sure we know where everything's going and we can actually have like a very successful collaboration with this.
Sure.
Of course, the other side of it is the game. It needs to be like relatively successful, and no matter how successful or good or bad it goes, like we do still want to give a percentage of whatever we can to Hope for Haiti, and that's something that's definitely going to happen. So there's still early talks going on. Like I said, we've been in communication with them for like half a year now.
Okay.
But we're still going to keep pushing forward, and we're just going to see where we can go.
Sure. That's awesome. Yeah, and I linked it briefly in the chat there for anybody who's curious about Hope for Haiti. You can go
Thank you.
take a look at what they do. That kind of moves to the next stage. Like if let's just dream for a second, right? Because I'm curious. If this and this is always an iterative process, right? If you guys do okay in Obsolete Souls episode 0 and you're able to make a 2 and a 3 and you guys are able to grow, do you have kind of an in game in mind? I know that probably you guys are probably not making a living. I know you're not making a living because I know you can see sales, right? This is a labor of love. You're working on this. I don't make a
Right.
living doing YouTube either, so that's obviously no shade there. Like I know how it is. You're just trying to make it work. But what is the what is the end goal? What would you like to see? What would be the end result of this?
Yeah, it's interesting with Dental Cake, right? Because I think the idea of even making Dental Cake a studio and a company was to just have like a hub almost where all my friends that I like made games with in college could still come together, mash their ideas and make a project that they're passionate about. But then when this project came into the picture, and I was like, wait, we could make like something important. We could make a game that has a lot of impact in the real world, not just, oh, this is fun to play. Um, I was like, man, it would be really, really cool if Dental Cake could grow to be not just like, oh, they're that Caribbean game dev studio, but they also make games for a lot of other places that don't typically get video games. Like, one thing I've heard so many times throughout our tour through the Northeast this year, um, yo, would you guys ever consider making a Puerto Rican game? And I'm like, hell yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
cool.
the thing that's scary is like I'm not Puerto Rican, so I probably wouldn't want to direct it because I wouldn't want to, put false influence into the project. But I would love to build a team that I could support and be like, hey, work with us. Let's make a Puerto Rican video game. And just stuff like that, right? Because I feel like you just really don't see that. Like most video games are either like heavily American or Japanese, and then some are like European and medieval, but it doesn't typically like thin out further than that. So I think it
Yeah.
would be really cool if Dental Cake could kind of be that frame for games that
And
offer more representation.
you point that out. The thing that I see oftentimes, being someone who covers games, and I cover tabletop games and stuff too, and it's this happens a little bit more on the tabletop side, but you look at American games and you're like made by different companies, different people, and you're like these kind of are all the same. And then I look at a game that is made by a Swedish creator or an Italian creator, or oh, this one's coming from Southeast Asia or whatever, and maybe it's a group of people from a couple different countries that know each other or what have you. And what you find, at least what I find in those, is that they are fundamentally different, and it's not starting from the exact same place and going, okay, well, how do I, okay, well, how do I make another game and just make it like 2% different or 2% whatever? And so having people from different backgrounds in my perspective leads to better games that are not necessarily like one is better than the other, but it's more varied. So it's not like, oh, I'm playing the same
Right.
game. There are people with different backgrounds, different perspectives, different norms. And so just having people from different cultures, you get a different, and I would argue as I'm a bit of someone who likes variety, right? So I want variety sometimes almost for the sake of variety, but I just love that where it's like, cool, I'm not just playing the same game over and over again. It's like everybody's making a clone of this game, and it's like, nah, can we get something original? Can we get something different and a different
Right.
perspective? Tori, can I ask you something? You guys were nice enough to send over really nice bios here, and I hope this isn't too personal, but it's a bit personal for me. I read you said something here that I was like, that's me. I relate to this completely. But mentioning that at one time, like video games were. And I'll say what it is for me. For me, video games were definitely in a time for a long time, and I came back to it over and over again, an escape from reality where life is too tough, things are not going well, and I'm talking about from a, young age, and I just kind of carried that through. Do you mind, do you mind talking about that a little bit? Or if not, I'll talk
Um,
about it.
I mean, sure, like, yeah, most kids growing up when they're in high school have a tough time. I had a
Yeah.
pretty tough time in high school. Was, I'm not gonna get into the details
Sure.
of
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but video games were like that's what got me through it. I mean, I remember being like, okay, this game's coming out, so I gotta focus on that and get through like high school. And once high school's done, like look at all the games I get to play. Like that was kind of like the mindset I had was I gotta get through the day so I can go home and play video games. And thankfully now I'm no longer in that like place, but it was valuable to me at that time to like have something to look forward to, especially if you're in like a really difficult point in your life. The trouble is kind of getting to a good place with video games and going back to that hobby without it being an escape. That's kind
Sure.
of the harder transition.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I've had that. I've had that problem too. I also relate to all of this. I get to a point where I was literally sitting at a table, being like, I don't know if the sun is rising or setting. I should probably take a break. I might have been playing this for 24 hours, but yeah, looking for that escape is definitely, and I'm sure that's something that a lot of people can relate to and have like gone through.
100%. Yeah.
Well, man, I'm thinking we kind of had a meandering conversation here. I'm sorry, a lot of that is on me. I gave myself very nice notes, and I think I have barely looked at them at all. Take a look. I think we've gone through a lot of this stuff. If someone is, I wanted to have this conversation because I wanted people to see, hey, these are people making games. Encourage other people to make games, and hopefully through seeing that and seeing what you guys are doing, that maybe they'll have an interest in like checking it out. And but if someone wants to follow up with you guys and they want to see, what you're doing, I mean, first thing I would probably say to everybody is like, first off, Obsolete Souls Episode 0, Operation Haiti. Go wish list it on Steam right now. But where else is there anything else where people should follow you guys? And I'm sorry, I keep saying
on social media, man.
Okay, follow you on social media. I'm sorry, I keep saying this Denel. It's Denel. I'm sorry. Am I saying it? I'm still saying it wrong.
Yeah, dental cake.
Dental cake. Okay.
So we don't. I try to keep everything into just like one source because that's easier for us and it can kind of generate more attention. So we don't have accounts for Obsolete Souls. It's just dental cake. For
Okay.
Literally everything.
Okay. Cool.
So
Yeah.
if you check us out on Dental Cake, you'll be up to date with everything we're doing. You'll catch everything on the game. It's definitely the easiest way to stay in touch.
Cool. And you guys have a website. I've been there as well. Is that just dentalcake.com?
Yep, dentalcake.com for the company. We do have a game page though, so obsoletesouls.com if you want to check out this game specifically.
Awesome. Cool. Well, is there anything that we missed, guys, that you wanna tell us about before we kind of wrap up here?
Obsolete Souls Episode 0 Operation Haiti is coming to Xbox One, Xbox Series S, and X. Release date TBD.
Okay. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me. It's awesome to get to talk to creators. Maybe, some future date, definitely when the game comes out, you guys will come back on and we can chat some more.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, we'll call it here, guys. I cut these guys for about an hour, and I don't keep them too much longer. But I appreciate everybody tuning in. Everybody, all you guys from Dental Cake, appreciate it. Denzel, Tori, Toby, appreciate you guys taking the time to come and chat with me.
Yeah, thanks for giving us
Thanks
a
for
spot.
having us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers. All right, guys. Well, I'm just gonna say bye to the stream here for 1 second. Guys, we'll call it here. If you have any questions for these guys, let me know, or you can always come by the Discord. Right now, they're actually in the Discord. I bet I could convince them to answer a few questions, but I'll leave some links and everything like that. Definitely come by and check them out. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything like this, when this game does come out, I will absolutely be covering it, and we'll talk about it more. So if you want, you can just always stay tuned. But wish listed on Steam if you have the chance. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks everybody for watching.